Okay, hi guys, we're back with part 2 of Deception. Hi Harry, how are you, bro?
Hey, all's well. How about yourself?
Oh, always good, mate, always good. In this crazy time. And it's, of course, here it's New Year's Eve today, so...
Here is still New Year's Eve.
Yeah, your Eve. Yeah, so... Happy New Year, mate. I'll say it a little bit earlier, and Happy New Year to everybody who's watching.
Yes.
So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to go. This is a follow-on from the one we did last week. The one that I tried to load up onto the channel, but YouTube said it was too long. So Karen put it on her channel. It's on my BitChute, the Devil's Playground BitChute channel. So you can either watch it there or go over to Karen's channel and watch it there. So this is part 2, and what we're going to do, we're going to get into who are we, where did we come from, what's all this nonsense about the 2 biblical creations. So where we're going to start is we're going to start with the one thing that everybody talks about. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. Well, what's a giant? If we go to the interlinear, which you should know how to do by now, you just click on this button here, it says interlinear, and it's the Nephilim. Okay, so what are the Nephilim? Click on the number above Nephilim, which is 5303, and it takes us to this page, and it says giants, the name of 2 peoples, one before the flood and one after the flood. Giants, name of 2 peoples. But if we scroll down a little bit further, a fella, properly a fella, a bully or tyrant. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. We could argue that they're still here, because bullies and tyrants. Would you agree, Harry?
Yeah, I can think of one guy whose last name sounds a lot like Feller.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Rockefeller.
Yeah, absolutely. Good, good one. Good pickup.
He was a giant in terms of industrial revolution, wealth, and to this day he is credited with the institution of medicine that we use today. The Rockefellers got rid of all the holistic doctors of the early 19th century, even late 18th century, and they instituted the pharmakia that we kind of know today. The uneducated doctors that pretty much prescribe the Band-Aid medication that keeps us all sick.
Well, doesn't you're fluent in Greek. Doesn't pharmakia actually mean spell, or to cast a spell in Greek?
It actually means poison.
Okay.
But if you go even farther back, pharmakia is a sacrifice of a human being, much like you see in the story where the Christ supposedly is going to be sacrificed, either the Son of God or Barabbas. Now, Barabbas in Hebrew means the Son of God. So in essence, both guys in that story are called the Son of God. One is the title and one is the name. And in pharmakia, you save one life and you sacrifice the other. So Barabbas was chosen by the people to be saved. And so he was given and released into the forest, right?
Right.
Into the wilderness. And the Son of God, so the character Jesus is eventually crucified. So pharmakia is the releasing of one and the killing of another. And that's kind of like what our medicine does today. It keeps you imprisoned to keep taking the medication, and eventually you just die.
Yeah, you're going to die anyway. I read somewhere quite recently that Barabbas was actually the biblical Joseph, i.e. the biblical father of Jesus. Who knows?
Yeah, I've not heard that one. That's pretty good.
Okay, so we'll move on. I've highlighted this where it says, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish. Replenish, not plenish the earth, replenish.
Yeah, again, once again.
Yeah, and this is in Genesis 1:28. So in 1:27, God created man in his own image, and then sent them out to replenish the earth. Well, this is where it gets a bit interesting. Multiply. Okay, 7235, bottom right-hand corner. Multiply means multiply, become, much, many, great. Okay, so become great, become many. Pretty straightforward. Now, when we go back to Genesis 6, I want to go, we've just done Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth. And Genesis 6:2, which we spoke about before, the sons of God, which actually in the interlinear is the sons of the Elohim, so we're referring to creation 1:27, Genesis 1:27, saw the daughters of men, that's the daughters of Adam and Eve, the second creation. They were fair and took them for their wives, all of which they chose. So this is what we spoke about before, Harry, where we've got the Genesis 1, the first creation, and the second creation, mating, creating what we called hybrids. But God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and every living thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw it was good. Now that's Genesis 1:25, before man was created. So they're making beasts after his kind. So does that mean that these beasts were already here and they remade them in a similar way? Made every living thing after its kind, or after his kind?
Yeah, so that sounds to
duplication.
Me like, yeah, like they were already there, and so they're just increasing the numbers.
Well, this is where this is what gave me the inspiration for this to make this PPT, because in Genesis 1:27 we've got God created man in his own image, in the image of God created he him. Well, who's God here? Is this the same God that made Adam and Eve? Genesis 1:1, above the word God we have Elohim, which we went into last time. Genesis 1:27, we have the same word, 430. It's right there, look, 430, Elohim, 430, Elohim, right? So it's clearly the same God that they want us to believe made the earth in the beginning and made man in Genesis 1:27. But then when we come to Genesis 2:7, the second creation, talking about the Lord God, formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Well, who's the Lord God? If we go again to the Elohim, it's 430, which is Elohim, and also 3068, which is Yahweh. Yeah. So is this telling us that Yahweh was part of the Elohim? Was he part of the original Elohim? If so, could he be classed as a fallen angel? I don't know. I'm just suggesting it.
I definitely think that Lord and Yahweh are definitely not the same guy.
No, I don't. I agree.
I mean, God and Yahweh are not the same guy.
No, I totally agree. So this is the bit that we're focusing on, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men were fair, took them for their wives. So this is the first creation and the second creation getting together. And obviously they would have had hybrids. Now, this is Jeremiah 4 that we talked about last time. We start in verse 23. I beheld the earth, it was without form and void. The heavens, they had no light. That is exactly what is written in Genesis 1:2. So this is clearly referring to Genesis 1:2, which is well before man was created. I beheld the mountains, all the hills moved. There was no man. there was no one around. All the birds of the heavens were fled. The fruitful place was a wilderness. All the cities were broken down at the presence of the Lord and by his fierce anger. So we talked about that. Yahweh destroyed the earth. There was man around before Genesis 1:27, and Jeremiah, he was one of them. He had to be, because he saw it. He's writing here about actually witnessing the destruction of the earth, the cataclysm. And 27 says, for thus the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate, formless, void, yet I will not make a full end. So clearly there were people around before Genesis 1:27. And I know that people talk about, giants and really big people and so on and so forth, but you're not going to get a giant to be able to mate with a normal sized human. So we've got to stick to the tyrant bully scenario. So this is a video. I'll put the link in the show notes below, from Spacebusters. He's done a series on Atlantis Rising, and this is part 5, and this is absolutely mind-blowing. I took a few screenshots. This is another screenshot from his video talking about crossbreeding, and this is the passage that we are addressing. There were giants in the earth in those days. Well, what he's done, he come up with this information, a long busted myth. It's not true that animals belonging to different species can never interbreed. And I actually thought that was quite a funny, quite an amusing picture. Real? I don't know. But the interesting thing is that what he's found is that quite often two different species that mate produce an offspring that grows much bigger than the parents. This is called a yakcow. It's a cross between a yak and a cow, and found in China, India, Mongolia, Nepal, Russia, basically where I am, this whole continent. What you've got here, you've got the mother and father, the one in the middle and the one on the right. You've got a grizzly bear and a polar bear, and the one on the left, which you can see is clearly much bigger than the parents. They call it a growler, a cross between a grizzly and a polar. And this is a liger.
Yeah, I was gonna say, about ligers; those are huge.
Yeah, a cross between a lion and a tiger. So, my question is: are the big people that we know about, are they or were they the products of the first and second creation, biblical creations, or were Jeremiah? I mean, who was Jeremiah and his other people? Who were they getting it on with? Were they getting it on with the first creation, the second creation, and the hybrids? And how many of these guys, what kind of races, what did they look like, was Jeremiah and the other guys? Because, they call it giantism, don't they? They call, it's a freak of nature. But, these people are real. So the sons of God, which we know now are actually sons of the Elohim, so creation 1. Unto the daughters of men, daughters of Adam and Eve, creation 2. They bare children unto them, and those children were giants. Is that possible when we look at this kind of thing happening? Ligers. Again, I'm just putting it out there. So here we have again, just a reminder. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form. I beheld the mountains. I beheld, and lo, there was no man. I beheld, me. So clearly Jeremiah is talking about what we are to believe is his own experience. If he saw this with his own eyes, prior to Genesis 1:27, creation of man, who was Jeremiah and who were all the other guys?
So he was obviously a survivor of the
Cataclysm, yeah.
Of that cataclysm, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have this other race of people, which these are the Atlanteans, the blue bloods, the ones that created all our laws and maritime law and everything else. So were these guys just getting it on with their own, or were they intermingling as well with quote unquote humans, the four, five, six other races of humans that were actually already now here in this realm? This has been proven to be a hoax. The prehistoric Piltdown nonsense, all complete BS. And I came across these yesterday. I mean, this is from 1664, and it's a Tartar was taken prisoner by Count Serini, a creature of extraordinary strength. Now, note the date, May the 23rd, 1664. And at the top, it says taken in Hungary. Well, it's not 1664, it's I-664. And we've got another one here, I-664. Completely different dudes. And this one's written in what appears to be Hungarian. And then there's another one, a true effigy of a Tartar taken in Hungary, February 1664. So they're all from the same year. And I think it's just complete bollocks. I think it's just somebody's imagination. Yeah.
You see the two of them are almost like standing in a ballet pirouette type.
Yeah, that one's certainly standing in like some kind of a ballet pose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Complete and utter nonsense. Oh, and the other thing is, guys, if you pop over to this channel, this is Jennifer from Truth Seeker 69. She lost her main channel, and this is a backup channel. I'll put a link in the show notes below. The reason that I'm suggesting this is because what she's done quite a lot. If you look at the second one in here, Pockets of Survival. She's done quite a few videos on what she calls pockets of survival. People who survived the cataclysm that happened in, when we go back to Jeremiah 4. Okay, the whole land shall be desolate, I will not make a full end. So people who actually survived that, which again would be Jeremiah and his, the other people that were around at that time. So again, I'll put a link in the show notes below to Jen's channel. Just go over there and just have a look at some of the pockets of survival videos that she's made. I think she's certainly onto something. And again, that's what helped me, try and put all this this nonsense together. So, anything to say, Harry?
No, I just wanted to add, when we look at the word Nephilim, we kind of don't really hear that word a lot today. Maybe it was used a lot more in the turn of the century or even in the first century. But, what are some words that we hear today that sound very similar? Like nephew. We have that word. Got to look into that and see where it originates from. And then when you break down, like we did, giants, I think I mentioned to you, if you take apart the word giants, okay, of course, the root of giant is gigantos in Greek, but if we take the English, which probably is a Phoenician language of origin, maybe giants, the GIA is in reference to the earth, like
yeah.
And then the ANTS, the ants part, like how we see ants, is Latin for antes or prior to. So maybe the Nephilim is a reference to people who were here before on the earth. Just a play on the words, and maybe it's another one of those language to deceive or language to free. Language does two things. It either liberates you or it enslaves you. It depends on who's using it and for what reason.
Yeah. And of course, nephew is the son of your brother or your sister, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they may be referencing, nephew. There's an origin to where you come from, like a Nephilim has an origin of where you come from.
Yeah.
Because there's a spark.
Yeah. We'll have to look into that one, mate. We'll have to look into that one, the etymology of nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think, all this etymology, it's getting more and more difficult. I mean, I found out recently that the Welsh language and the Celtic languages from Ireland and Scotland are essentially the same as Hebrew. They're all interconnected. And it's also interesting that when I was a kid growing up in the UK, this is in the 60s, early 70s, they stopped teaching Irish, they stopped teaching Gaelic, and then they stopped teaching Welsh in schools in Wales. It's just banned. You're not allowed to talk Gaelic or Welsh anymore. I mean, obviously, clearly for a reason, their reason, of course.
The same reason that they call the Latin language a dead language.
Well, I actually studied Latin when I was at secondary school. It's not taught anymore, but I went to a grammar school, and in grammar schools, we were taught Latin. And I wish I'd paid more attention to it now, to be honest with you. I really do. Yeah. I hated it.
But I think that's the same reason they stopped teaching Gaelic, for the same reason that Greek and Latin are not part of a curriculum anymore in a lot of public schools.
Yeah, crazy. All right, guys, look, we're going to have to wrap it up here because I've got to try and keep this to half an hour, otherwise YouTube will not let me upload it. So we'll finish it here, and we'll continue next time. Okay?
Yeah. All right, man. You take care.
You too, bro.
Bye, guys.